We've been talking a lot about the Washington State ferry system lately, and
it's always on time. The boats are always waiting for you, fully staffed, never miss a run. That's why we talk about it.
You can set your clock by it. That's what they say. That's their official motto. You can set your watch by us.
We kid.
Obviously, we kid. No, we're very happy because we wanted to reach out to Washington State Senator Marko Liias. He represents the 21st District, which includes Edmonds all the way to Mukilteo, and he has agreed to join us on the show. Marko, thank you so much for making the time.
Good to be with you, and I hear Spike's a constituent. So
I am a constituent. I want to say really quickly, though, I did vote for you, but I voted for you because I thought your name was Marko Liias. I thought you were Irish.
On St. Patrick's Day, it is.
I don't regret my vote, though. I think you do fine work, and I love the Mariner Green choice today. Well done, my friend.
He's nice, too, because he joined us. He's out of town. He still made the time for us, which is very nice.
Appreciate it.
We really do appreciate it. Senator Liias, we've been talking recently about the Washington State ferry system, and so we asked Laura to reach out and see if you'd come on with us, and we were just interested in talking with somebody in the local government who can help us understand some of these costs are going very high. And recently we were talking about the Wenatchee, which is the first of 3 boats that's supposed to be converted to hybrid electric. The original cost for all 3 was supposed to be in the $120 million range, and just the Wenatchee is already north of $130 million. And last I checked, is not in service right now because of issues it's having after the conversion.
I think it's about to be back in the water, though. They've made some tests. I think they made some test run this week, and it's going to be back soon, I hope.
Right. I think today it may be back.
Which means it'll be out of service by tomorrow.
Stop.
That's a joke. But okay. So here's my question to you: Is there a limit at which people start at which they are no longer allowed to spend more money on these projects? So if they originally tell us $120 million, and just the first boat alone is more than that entire cost for just one boat, is there a point at which we say, hey, you know what? We've spent all our money, like your kids with allowance. You've spent all your money.
Yeah, I mean, we effectively have done that. We've paused the conversion of the Puyallup and the Tacoma because the experience on the Wenatchee has been so tough. So the legislature and the governor said Wenatchee was more complicated than we thought it was going to be. Let's press pause on doing any further conversions of our existing vessels. The challenge with the Wenatchee, and I think part of what's getting lost in the conversation about it, is we did 2 things to the Wenatchee. One is a midlife engine rebuild, which was going to have to be done no matter what. So irrespective of whether we make it hybrid or not, the boats are 30 years old. They need new propulsion systems to make it another 30 years. So that is what is currently causing the problem, is that the new engines that were put in, basically as they've connected them to the old vessel technology, the 2 have had a tough time communicating, for lack of a better word. So they're working through that. The hybrid costs, those were earlier in the process. They were much higher than we thought, and we've pressed pause on doing any further conversions. But I just want to make sure people know that that's not what's driving the challenges right now. Right now, the problem is we put new engines in old boats, and that is it's going to take some time to figure out how to get the 2 to work. That's not costing us more money. The contractor is responsible for figuring this piece of it out. But your broader point is right. We've got to be really careful before we move forward on any more of these conversions.
So those 2 boats remaining, if they were to be eventually converted to hybrid, which even if it's paused right now, is the plan still at some time in the future to try to convert those boats?
We haven't made a decision. I think we want to see how the Wenatchee fully plays out, see how it performs after some time in service, how the hybrid engine on these older vessels is working, and then make a decision. We've said after World Cup, we want to keep the jumbos in service through the World Cup. Our largest vessels need to be on the water when we have that surge in demand next summer. And then we'll come back to it, see what the experience has been. Has it generated the benefit we thought it would? And what's the cost going to be to move forward before we make a call on? Now, these are the existing vessels. Our new vessels are going to be hybrid. Those are the 3 that are being built by Eastern. But when it comes to these older boats and converting them, I think the jury's still out on whether it makes sense.
Can you help me understand on these new boats that are being built? And these are being built in Florida, right? Isn't that the company that won the bid for that?
That's right. Yeah, Eastern is in Florida.
I saw that the contract value is for like just a little over $700 million. I think it was like 714. So the cost breakdown, according to King 5, I'm in radio, so I'm not paid to be good at math. So I'm hoping to understand this more. But the initial boat is going to be $405 million. The second boat is going to be $360 million. So right there, that puts us at 765, already over the contract value. And the third boat is scheduled to be $325 million, which puts us north of $1 billion. And the only reason I ask that is I understand that ferries are expensive. And I understand that in a dream case scenario that everybody can have everything they want and we can have the cleanest possible future that everybody wants. But there is a cost to these things. And if the technology is really, really super expensive, and if we're exceeding what we're telling people that it's going to cost, is there a point at which you go, hey, you know what? You just can't have everything you want. You can't have a full fleet of ferries, and they can't be hybrid electric because we can't afford them. So how does that cost break down? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for the new ferries, there's a much different sort of cost equation because we're going to have 50 to 60 years of fuel savings on the new vessels. So that is part of, just like when you buy an electric vehicle, sometimes the upfront cost is more expensive on the electric vehicle, but when you look at the fuel savings across the lifetime, that's where it saves money. These hybrid vessels are in that same place. We expect, depending on weather conditions and all that, between 75 and 90% reduction in fuel usage on them. So diesel costs are unpredictable. They're going up across time. We're going to save a ton of diesel in these new vessels. That's part of what makes it pencil out for us on the new vessels. And adding the hybrid elements, they are not a significant cost driver on the new vessels. We're essentially adding some batteries to vessels that already would have had an electric engine, and already they will still have a diesel power plant on them because the Coast Guard wants redundancy. So to add some batteries, the incremental cost, when you look at the fuel savings across time, it pencils out. That's why on the new vessels, it makes sense to consider them. On the existing vessels, which only have 25 or 30 years of life left, that's where the differential in terms of fuel savings isn't as clear, and the costs have been much higher than we expected. I'm not sure it pencils. That's what we need to look at as we decide on the existing vessels halfway through their life, whether or not to convert them.
Do you think there's any value in reapproaching this idea? And I think Governor Ferguson even took some flack for it from Jay Inslee when he first was elected, or maybe it was in the campaign process. The idea of maybe shifting away from this idea that everything has to be hybrid electric. They are very expensive. I mean, the ones we're talking about right now, for 3 of them, it's going to be north of $1 billion. You can get, I think the last one that was delivered to Washington State in 2018, the last traditional one, which was diesel powered, was a Squamish. That was about $122 million, again, in 2018 dollars. So take that with a grain of salt. 144 car, diesel powered, $122 million bucks. It's a technology everybody understands. It works. It gets us on the water. Getting some of these more traditionally accepted ways of powering these these vessels so that you can count on them. The problem with the Wenatchee right now is that it's breaking down a bunch, and that puts strain on the whole rest of the fleet. And then people have to wait in line. I'm in these lines. My mother. This is a personal gripe for me because my mother-in-law lives over in Port Townsend, which means that I have to go sit in the Kingston Ferry line all the time. Now, I love that line.
Yeah, he's not a constituent, but he drives through our neighborhood.
I drive through it all the time. And listen,
you got to stop at Top Pot. Just go to Top Pot.
I was just going to say, the only silver lining is that I get to go to Top Pot.
They're friends.
I'm friends with Jimmy Donuts is what I call him. So I love Top Pot, but I don't love sitting there for many, many hours. And I feel like we're kind of at a crisis point where that's just becoming the norm. I grew up here, and when I was a kid, I would ride these. Every time we had family come in or whatever, my parents went gaga for these ferry boats. So we would ride them all the time. You never sat for more than an hour. And that is just, if you can only sit for an hour now, it's a red letter day.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's the only day. Let me ask you this, to Jake's point. What would the cost of a new diesel boat be today? I was talking about the new electrics we're buying.
150, 160.
Is it equate to that much less?
I mean, the hybrid components are 20 to 25% of the cost. So if you take that, what was it, 400 for the first one, deduct 25% of the cost, it would be about 300 plus to get
just for a diesel.
Diesel. That's right.
But how is that possible? That's more than double the price of what it cost just 6 years ago. You're saying it's more than double?
Unfortunately, yeah. Welcome to the shipbuilding industry in the United States, which has been shrinking. Like, we have to buy from a U.S. shipyard the cost of the raw materials have gone up, the cost of the labor has gone up. Like this is the challenge that we're facing in transportation broadly. Like in heavy construction from 2020 to 2024, we saw costs go up 75% in road construction. Ferries have been similar. So that's the challenge, is we have to custom build these vessels. Unfortunately, there's no ferry dealership where we can go and kind of dicker the price. We have to get them custom built for us. And that means that, they're kind of a bespoke product where they're building it just for us. And that is where we're sort of dependent. If we could, BC Ferries, our neighbors to the north, they're able to source from around the globe. They can buy from Korea or Romania or whoever's making boats.
So why don't we do that?
We're not, federal law prohibits that. The Jones Act says we have to buy from U.S. shipbuilders. And in fact, the Congress has recently strengthened that prohibition to make it even tougher to build components out of the country. And I'm not here to argue that, we shouldn't have a strong American shipbuilding industry. I'm on board with that, but it does mean that we have to pay higher dollar amounts. And it's part of why we moved away from strictly building in Washington, because the narrower you make the pool.
I guess I should be glad we at least opened that market up.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're getting a lot of flack for that, because of course we want our Washington shipbuilders to be strong. But at the end of the day, taxpayers have to foot the bill. And if we layer cost after cost after the cost on top of it, that becomes a burden. On these new vessels, the lifetime fuel savings more than dwarf the cost of adding the batteries at the front end. So that's why I think it still makes sense to move forward with the hybrids. They are going to save us money on operating costs in the long term. That's the win-win there. But these vessels are expensive. And the thing I've learned is they were always cheaper yesterday. We just have to get building. If we wait another year or 2 years or 3 years, every year the costs go up. We just need to get to work, and that's why I'm glad we're moving. That
is one of the shames, is when you look back on the years and years where they could see down the road, or across the bay, or whatever the better analogy would be, that we were going to need these boats, and they failed to take action. I do feel like it would have been nice if Governor Inslee, in his time in office, would have gotten to this before he took off. And I know that he was wanting it to be green and as healthy as it can possibly be.
So you're saying he should have stayed for 4 more years? Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying I wish he would have quit earlier.
I mean, at the highest level, these boats last about 60 years. We need 20 of them. Jake, you don't have to be a math whiz to figure out 60 years, 20 boats. That means every 3 years, we should have a new boat coming and rotating the oldest one out. We went about 10 years with no vessels from 2012 to 2008 to 2018 without adding substantial new vessels.
Very short-sighted for sure.
Break, like that's the problem. Every third year, a new vessel should be arriving. We're moving back to that schedule now, but that's part of what's caused this problem. We're pouring tons of money into some old vessels to string them along for another year or two. Like, we should not have 60-year-old vessels and try and get 63 years out of them. It's just throwing good money after but that's what we face right now.
Are you confident, though, that they won't have the issues that the Wenatchee is already seeing? Like, when they get the new boats in, they have not yet built the charging stations for those. Another question that I would have, I mean, I know you mentioned the fuel savings over the lifetime, which I understand and I believe. It's an incredible cost to start off with, but I understand the argument for the fuel savings. If you get an electric car, eventually you have to have that power plant replaced. We were recently talking about school buses, electric school buses, which are incredibly expensive versus traditional diesel school buses. And the thing about electric school buses that I discovered while we were looking into it was those batteries sometimes have to be replaced after 8 years. Now, that's a lot of money that goes into that, and that's not generally factored into when people are saying, "Oh, the fuel savings is going to be so great." Are we going to see something similar on these ferries? Are they going to have to replace those batteries? And what's that cost going to be?
Every one of our vessels, because they're in continuous operation, like that's what's happened to the Wenatchee now. Even though it has diesel engines, we have to completely rebuild those diesel engines at the midpoint of their life. So we are taking out the engines that were installed in the 90s and putting brand new engines in, because these engines just don't last for 60 years. So that kind of substantial maintenance will have to happen on these vessels and others. As we did the cost benefit analysis, we did weigh, when, and I don't remember off the top of my head when those batteries have to be replaced on the hybrids. We can track that down, but that was factored into the cost benefit analysis. And I will just say, the ferry system every year, 19 million gallons of diesel. So when we talk about diesel savings, like it is incredible. It's one of the largest cost centers in ferries is to pay for the fuel. So I don't want to, minimize the savings on diesel. Like, this is a huge cost for us. If we can reduce that on these hybrids, they think 75 to 90%. If there's bad weather, they may have to be operating on the diesel engines more. So it depends on weather conditions. But 75 to 90%, I mean, that's taking if we can do that fleet wide, that's taking that 19 million down to a few million gallons a year. That's where we get real substantial savings across time.
You guys have a Costco card? Because I know they're local. They could put a diesel outlet right there at the dock.
Costco would do it too.
Right? We're talking to Senator Marko Liias, my own 21st District representative. I know you're head of the Senate Transportation Committee, the chair. Do you just do ferries? Because I know you live, up in Edmonds with us. But can we speak to the Sound Transit for a second?
He doesn't want to talk about Sound Transit.
Yeah, we can a little bit. I'm not on the Sound Transit board.
Okay, fair. I don't want to. Yeah.
He seems like a nice guy. Let's not pin that on him.
I have opinions, so I'm happy to share my opinion. But
is your opinion that the cost is ridiculous? Can you agree with us on that?
Is it the shaft Everett and Tacoma, or the shaft West Seattle? Who gets the short shift here?
I think in 1996, voters voted to go to Everett and Tacoma, so they need to get that done first. And we've built a Painfield Airport based on the idea that light rail will get to it. Like, they need to meet the promises that were made to those of us that voted on it. Now, I wasn't even 18 in 1996, so I didn't vote on it. But the people that voted in Everett back then deserve it. I think the things that have been added since, and Ballard and West Seattle have a ton of merits, but those were added later on to the plan.
Yeah, get rid of
them. We got to finish the spine, get that done first. And our county executive from Snohomish County, Dave Summers, is chairing the Sound Transit Board this year, and I've heard him say the exact same thing. We got to finish the spine. That's the original promise that was made. I'm confident that they're going to navigate to get us what we've been promised on the time frame.
Are you concerned with their recent ask of? I don't even know if it was an ask, to be honest. I think they just said, "Give us your money."
So we need
the $35 billion
my wife asks
that they've
for
now
money.
tacked onto that. Doesn't that just? Can you please, for our audience, express as a normal person would, when you hear that figure, don't you just go, "Ugh, gross"?
It makes me think of Dr. Evil, which is like $1 million. I mean. The challenge with it is it's like across 30 years. So it's like, that's how this stuff gets so complicated. Like, we're talking about $2050, which, I hope we're all here in 2050.
Yeah.
I don't know what it'll cost by the time we get to it. The key to me is like, how do they get the transit service delivered that they promised? And let's figure that out. And they've got to make some tough choices. They can't meet everybody's expectations of it on the time frames. I think they've got to get what they promised back in 1996 done, and then get to the promises they've made since then.
This is going to be controversial, but I think they should just go, "We're done. Stop now. Stop spending my money."
No.
It's a lot of money they've spent. $185 billion is insane. All right, Senator Marko Liias, thank you so much for coming on with us. We appreciate you making the time. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah, so good to see you.
All right,
Likewise.
we'll be in touch again.